The opinions and viewpoints expressed in .NET Rocks are not necessarily those of its sponsors, or of Microsoft Corporation, its partners, or employees. .NET Rocks is a production of Franklin's Net, which is solely responsible for its content. Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter. Rockheads, vote later. Now it's time for .NET Rocks, the internet audio talk show for .NET developers with Carl Franklin and Rory Blythe. This is Jeff Maciolik, here to announce show number 85, The Whidbey Show, with guests Scott Burmester, Steve Cellini, Carter Maslan, and Jeff Sandquist. Recorded live Friday, October 15th, 2004. .NET Rocks is brought to you by Franklin's Net, training developers to work smarter, and now offering hands-on VBNet, ASP.NET, and C# classes. Online at www.franklins.net. And by Data Dynamics, makers of ActiveReports.net. Simple, powerful, and cost-effective reporting for Windows Forms and ASP.NET web applications. Online at www.datadynamics.com. Support is also provided by Code Magazine, Microsoft Technologies in-depth for IT managers and developers. Online at www.code-magazine.com. And now, the man who believes that marriage is between a man and his code, Carl Franklin. With 500 names, call my friends.
Thanks, Jeff. And we here at .NET Rocks are a bipartisan entity, and we don't support either candidate. We, in fact, are apolitical. Are we not, Jeff? Yeah, he's muted now, so. Welcome to the show. I'm Carl, and Rory Blythe, my co-host, is on vacation this week. He actually got a better gig, so he's not here. But filling in for Rory this week is our old friend Kirk Webb.
Thank you.
How are you?
Good. How you doing, Carl?
Good. So, did you get the motorcycle or not?
Well, yeah, I actually put some money down on it, and it's in the works. I had to make the order before the wife changed the mind. So
yeah, so she let you do it.
December so far.
Okay,
is when it's coming in.
Now, just to rewind a little, you first bought a bike, and then you got some grief at home for it, so you had to sell it, and now you're buying another bike.
Yeah.
So is this one better than the
Slightly,
first one?
Yeah. The first one was an Indian, and much as I like them,
that's an old bike too.
This was a 2003, the last year they made them, but
I didn't know they were still making them.
It's been sitting. Well, they just stopped actually. It was sitting on the lot for a few years. So this one's going to be a 2005 Harley. So I decided to go with that. So.
Oh, good.
Yeah, it's all about.
So you didn't ride it up here in the rain tonight, did you?
No, they won't give it to me. It's not built yet. So.
Ooh.
Yeah, December, baby.
It is raining outside
vigorously. Cats, dogs, frogs. It's raining lots of stuff.
Yeah. So what's going on at work? Is your head going down? Your head size going down? Are they tripping over it still at work, or?
Yes, and the reams of spaghetti code is coming to a slow trickle.
That's good.
Yeah, meetings. It's all about meetings lately. So.
Yeah. How's your .NET experience going at work?
Good actually. Doing more .NET than I ever had a chance to before, which is fantastic. And we're now looking forward to to the future of what else. I've been given a position, luckily, to evaluate new things, new technologies, and how do we appropriately position the new stuff.
Yeah.
We're going to upgrade a lot of old stuff. Old stuff. And next year,
that's a great job.
It is. Middle of next year, late next year, we're gonna start looking at some new stuff, and hopefully it's going to be out by then. Yeah. Yeah,
we hope. We'll find out tonight.
So that's what I'm looking forward to.
Also in the studio is Dan Kurla, and he doesn't want a microphone. He's anonymous, but he is sitting at the table, and he does have a beer. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Yeah. So, but he does prefer to be anonymous. So anyway, we do have some mail to talk about. We, by the way, this week for me, by the way, has all been about podcasting. podcasting has sort of taken over my focus in the last week or so. We talked about it first 2 shows ago, where Mitch Denny, I think it was, or one of the guys in the chat room sent us a link to a post by Doc Searles, which sort of wrapped up all this podcasting talk that's been going on. And apparently podcasting is essentially what our fans have been doing with .NET Rocks, except automated, which is that you produce a show like .NET Rocks or an audio blog or some other form of audio content that's published on a regular basis. And instead of just supplying an RSS feed so that people can be notified when there's new MP3s out there, you actually run a program that downloads the MP3. So inside the RSS is a little enclosure tag that has a link to the MP3, and then a program like iPodder, which you can get at iPodder.org, will download those MP3 files directly to your iPod, hence the word podcasting, or to a folder on your hard drive, sort of like a push model for audio content. And, everybody's talking about it in the last few weeks. And so what we did immediately last week, which we talked about on Chris Sell's show, was we started publishing RSS feeds that have the enclosures, so people are now using we're now podcasting officially. So, and we have been for a couple of weeks, a week and a half. All right, whatever. So anyway, I was quoted in Wired magazine. They talked to me about it, and we're in Adam Curry's list of pioneers on his blog. Adam Curry, the ex-VJ from MTV, is sort of turned podcaster.
That was him. I was like,
yeah, that's
really?
right, the hair guy.
Wow, the hair guy.
Yeah, we ought to have him on the show if this thing really takes off. But I do want to announce this, that the audio talent and equipment and technology that we have here at Franklin's Net that produce the show, we're now subbing that out. We have a company called PWOP, P-W-O-P, and you can check it out at www.pwop.com. And essentially, if you want to produce your own talk show, your own .NET Rocks type of thing, or your own audio blog or interview or telephone, whatever, and produce it on a regular basis or just a one-off, you can contact us and we can do it. And the guest can be in one room and somewhere in the world. The host can be in another place in the world, and the talent can be on the telephone, and we can just make it all happen. So check that out. That's the news from here. So now let's get to the mail. This one came from Jeremy Blosser, or Blosser. I'm not sure exactly how to pronounce his last name, but he says, "Hey, Carl, Rory, and gang. I saw that at Chris Sell's XML DevCon, Don Box is going to talk about ws.y." And that's WHY. And I was hoping that you guys could have Don on sometime to talk about the same stuff. I've been doing a lot with some of the WS specs, security compression, eventing lately. And I seem to remember listening to Don Box on DNR back in episode 45, January 4. Maybe it was somewhere else, though, that he was talking about how WS wasn't going to be the horrible route that COM did, blah, 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 blah. But with the explosion of the WS specs, it seems like this is another take of the same crap, except that this time it might or might not work in the cross-platform world. Well, how's that for a definitive position? I also love to hear what his take is on versioning, seeming to be such a major hassle with web services. Thanks, you guys do a great job, and I love the show. Jeremy Blosser. Okay, got a couple of suggestions for you, Jeremy. Yes, you're right. We did talk about at least a little bit with Don Box on the show we did with him, this stuff. Also, the show we did with Benjamin Mitchell, and the show we did with John Alexander and Barry Gervin, where Michelle LaRue Bustamante came in those 2 weeks there, sort of back to back. We were all talking about this stuff, WYSI and versioning and all that kind of stuff. Also, listen to the show we did with Harry Pearson and Keith Please. I think that you'll get some great information in regards to web services, service-oriented architecture. The Clemens Vaster show is all about SOA. And so we've been talking about this stuff. You just got to go back and listen to it again. And it's still fresh. Next one came from Benjamin Martins. And Benjamin wrote some haiku for Kirk. Okay. Yeah. He says, "Hey, guys, in my search for swag, I write my haiku email to find useless crap." Listen to your shows, even listen live sometimes. Keeps me up to date. Poor strange new guy Kirk. People don't like his segment. I have an idea. .NET examples. Find interesting programs. The best on the web. Kirk's Geek Hall of Fame. Or maybe Kirk's .NET Shrine. Even Kirk's Nerd Hut. Keep up the good work, Ben. Well, let's just go check the status of the survey, shall we?
Yeah, I'm on the outs.
You are on the survey. Let's check it out. So this is at www.franklins.net/web poll. And what do you think of
WEBB?
Yes, brilliant, isn't it? What do you think of Kirk Webb's Weird Wide Web? I can't even say it. Weird Wide Web bit. Awesome, don't change it. Takes the lead with 36.34. But would you rather hear Kirk Webb do some other bit on the show instead of the Weird Wide Web? No has now surpassed yes, 62.97 to 37.03. Should we have Kirk Webb killed gets an overwhelming no by half, 67 to 32. If you answered yes, please select a method of execution or choose let him live. Firearm, 2%, knife, 0.31%, fire hose, 7%, flare, got 3%, acid, got 7%, cement shoes, got 9.6%, I don't care, just kill him, got 12%, and overwhelmingly let him live, got 58%. So it's looking good for you, Kirk, but it looks like people want you to, they want to hear more of Kirk than just silly websites, apparently. But, that's as it stands right now. It could totally turn on a dime. Lastly, this one came from somebody who didn't leave their name, but it looks like if I was interpreting their email address that the name is Fedora Vasquez. And he says his name, or she, I'm not sure. Fedora Andres. How's that for terribly politically incorrect? I don't know what gender fedora is.
You're right. It's
in
a
Colombia.
Hat. It's a hat.
Yeah, fedora is a hat, but fedor, F-E-D-O-R.
Oh, okay.
I'm not sure if that's
no
whatever.
idea.
All right. And maybe he could or she could tell us. My name is Fedor Andres. I'm from Colombia, and I've been listening to your show one after another, and it rocks. I'm a .NET developer, and I really love your show because it gives me a lot of info that I can use to make decisions here at my work, and also have fun in the process. It's really cool. Congratulations. So .NET rocks in Colombia, ladies and gentlemen. Yes. I drink coffee in your honor, Fedor. It's iced coffee, but yeah, Kirk's got beer. Sorry. Dan's got beer.
Root beer, honey. Root beer.
So we were actually, the last time we checked, which was earlier in the year, we were listened to by people in over 50 countries. It's probably increased by now, but another thing that we've been talking about is franchising out to different countries. So if you listen to .NET Rocks in your country and there's a lot of things going on in your country that you think your country deserves its own .NET Rocks show with your local language and your local people doing the .NET scene there, give us a call and let us know. We're actually in the process of getting some documentation together for franchising. Yeah. And we actually have one person who wants to do that. So, yeah, it's amazed me, too, that our silly show could be elevated to such high stature. Anyway, Kirk.
How do you say messy dressy down in Colombia?
Jeez, I don't know. I think they would stay away from that one if they were smart.
Yeah, well.
So the guest tonight, this is the Whidbey Show, by the way, Kirk, and yes, it's all about Whidbey. We've talked about Whidbey in the past in specific terms, ASP.NET with Scott Guthrie, VB.NET with Amanda Silver and Paul Vick, C# 2.0 with Javal Lowy, but we really haven't sort of talked to a broader scale of the whole Whidbey, push. And this month is the Whidbey month at Microsoft in a program that they're calling the .NET or the Microsoft Evangelism Rhythms. The Evangelism Rhythms basically mean that we're going to have a coordinated evangelism effort at Microsoft to push different or to talk about different topics at different months, and October happens to be the month of Whidbey. So what we've decided to do here at .NET Rocks is invite people from Microsoft once a month to come on the show and talk about, what they're talking about in terms of the evangelism rhythms. So tonight we have 4 group managers for technical evangelism at Microsoft, and you may read their blogs or you may have heard of them before, and I'm sure you have. Jeff Sandquist, Steve Cellini, Carter Maslan, and Scott Burmester. How are you guys doing?
Great.
Doing great.
Great.
Good.
And let me just have you guys introduce yourself one at a time, and I'll go in alphabetical order so that we can get used to what you sound like and hear from out of the horse's mouth, So Scott Burmester, let's start with you.
Hi, I'm Scott Burmester. I'm a program manager in the Platform Strategy and Partner Group. Basically what that means is I take the information in the heads of the other 3 guys, the other 3 smart guys that I work with, make sure that 1,000 people know about it.
Okay.
And my name's Carter Maslan. I'm Director of Technical Evangelism, focusing on Whidbey and the WinFX rhythms.
Okay.
This is Steve Cellini. I'm a Director also of Evangelism, and I work with all these other guys on a daily basis, too.
And Steve, you've been on the show before.
Yeah, I'm trying to... You reminded me of that. I was on the show before.
God. How many years of therapy did it take to get that out of your head?
It hasn't been pulled from the website, so it still is available, isn't it?
Yeah.
We were talking about Longhorn along with my boss, Vic Condotra.
Right. And Jeff Sandquist.
And I've been on the show once before, too, talking about Channel 9 and things like that.
That's right.
I've moved on to a new position, same overall team at Microsoft, running a Whidbey evangelism team.
Excellent. So in the evangelism team, what kinds of things do you do? We've talked about evangelists at Microsoft a little bit, and I suppose you would call .NET Rocks sort of a third-party evangelism effort. But what are some of the things that you guys do on a regular day-to-day basis?
Well, this is Steve Cellini talking, and along with Carter and Jeff and Scott, we try to think up new ways to get developers excited about what we're doing. That's at a high level, that's basically what we do. It's a lot of fun. We have a blast doing it. It's working with developers at Microsoft is always working with the product guys. It's always a challenge. These guys don't get out much, and trying to get them to talk to us about what they're doing is kind of challenging sometimes. Obviously, I'm kidding, but they're very much really excited about what they're doing, and our job is to extract from them the essential messages and what's cool, and then turn into stuff that that we can push out to the outside world. And
Right.
Sometimes the best way to do this is just arrange for the product guys to talk directly to customers. Well, that's always a dicey thing.
And the customers that you talk to, are they big companies, small companies, everywhere in between? Do you not?
Yeah, everywhere in between. There's ISVs, small ISVs, large ISVs, enterprise developers, anybody who's system integrators. We don't discriminate from partners and customers who are interested in adopting Whidbey technology early.
So if a small business, say with 50 employees, had a small dev team and they had some successes with .NET, or they were getting interested in it, would they contact you if they wanted to give you some feedback or get some assistance? Or
we actually have an ISV buddy program that's meant to scale down to the smaller companies. One of the buddies that I have is Keyhole, and they've been featured in a ton of things. If you may have seen them on the CNN shots where they were doing the satellite flight.
Dude, I have a subscription.
Yeah,
I love Keyhole.
Okay.
So we love them too. But there's an example of a smaller company through ISV Buddy program. We've got direct ties to evangelists, and they actually have turned into great source of feedback, and they're doing really innovative work. So it spans the range from big enterprises to small startups.
Right.
And if you're looking to be an ISV buddy, go to msdn.microsoft.com/ISV/ISV buddy, and you can sign up, and you can get a Microsoft employee as a buddy too. There's a plug.
Okay. All right. And again, it doesn't really matter what size business you are. You're interested in talking to everyone.
Yeah, and there's lots of people go to. We've been, especially on the Whidbey side, we've been really trying to be diligent with the community releases. We've been putting out code pretty early there and pretty regularly, and the news groups and the other feedback mechanisms there are really designed to sort of provide as much surface area as possible.
So with Keyhole, which is, you mentioned, it's first of all, I'll just tell people, it's a program that that downloads images from satellites, basically lets you navigate the world, and you can sort of zoom out at a big macro level and zoom in to street level. And it, as I say, it downloads sort of on demand these maps that are not maps, but actual satellite photos, taken from above. And it really lets you zoom in. So I was showing this to my mother, who's like still in the this is magic phase of computing experience, And to get an email she's been using the computer for 3 years. She didn't know how to reply to an email not yesterday, but last month. So anyway, this is the level she did. So anyway, I showed it to her, and she says, "Oh, you know what? I need an overhead view of the pond in my backyard. Can you zoom and find it?" And of course, we were able to just pull it up and print it out, and for some survey or something like that she wanted to do or something. And there you go. So she was absolutely blown away. But with Keyhole, you guys, who approached who? Did you approach them?
It's funny because they're literally across the street from my office. I'm based in the Silicon Valley campus in Mountain View. And I knew them from some friends that were from prior companies. But the way I got introduced to them was through a blog. Ray Ozzie had mentioned them saying, this is what people don't realize they're missing from a browser experience. And that was actually my lead into Keyhole, even though they're across the street. So I went over and met them in person, and we went from there.
And Ray was saying that what's missing was the very highly interactive 3D graphics. Is that
well, he was just saying that people don't realize what they're settling for when they go page to page on HTML, and that they're, He pointed to them as a sample of kind of the new class of application where it kind of leverages the connectivity we've got, but also has that kind of local presentation and processing power. And so it was just a great showcase for how the client becomes this integration point for all these different services.
Yeah, it certainly is. And there's lots of other there's lots of room for those kinds of applications, and especially with the new graphics things that you guys are working on with Longhorn. So, what exactly took place between you two? Did they come and ask for help or for publicity?
We actually went to visit them about a year and a half ago. We just said, "Look, you guys have just done phenomenal work. We'd love to talk to you about some of the things that you could do in the next round of platform technologies that are coming up." And so we had at first just some informal briefings and things, and it was kind of hot and cold contact for a while, but over the past 9 months, we really stepped up engagement because they were producing some really cool components that are going to be coming out that leverage Whidbey. And so the relationship is really deep, and they've got some really great stuff that's coming out.
Awesome. So you guys obviously use them as an example when you go around to other companies and say, look what people are doing with it.
Right. Right, because a lot of times you're talking about things that are kind of abstract about, hey, we've got these great tools for connected systems, and there's these great scenarios, and to have something that's very visual and lets people just intuitively get it. Like I'll tell you more later about some scenarios that they're enabling, but just phenomenal stuff that people grok right when they see it.
Yeah. Well, have you guys been in touch with the folks at NASA who did the? What was the program that they did at NASA for, what am I thinking of?
The Moon program.
Yeah. I'm thinking of...
Yeah, there was a release that did something similar to Keyhole, but it's not nearly as advanced as what Keyhole does with the fluid rendering and...
I'm thinking of Whirlwind.
Whirlwind
1.2.
Right.
Which was it's a real smart client application.
Right, and it's a .NET app too.
Totally, yes.
Yeah. Have you guys been involved with them on that?
No, in fact, I think just a couple people on my team had just downloaded it, I think last week or so, just to give it a try, and I haven't really followed up with them since then, because wasn't it just posted recently?
Yeah, it's a new thing.
He actually, and there's a message board where they talk about it, where he actually goes through a lot of the decisions of why he went down the route that he did, and C# over Java. It's pretty fascinating. But that was really an impartial thing that that they did on and made a decision on their own to go down the path that they did.
Yeah, right.
They went C# and DirectX.
What about that game Arena Wars that was written in C#? It's one of the first .NET C# DirectX games that I've seen. And although I haven't played it, I was looking at the screenshots. I'm not really a gamer myself, but would that be like a good fit for you guys to get together? And
we might have worked with them to sort of identify the opportunity for them for using managed code and using Whidbey, and we might have helped them along. The thing is that there are tons of people who are using Whidbey now,
right.
And what we try to do is our scale, our direct one-on-one relationships and engagements are pretty small scale, so we definitely rely on MSDN and other avenues to get lots of people exposed to Whidbey.
Right, that's true. Yeah, you can only visit so many developers in a week. What are some of the other things that you guys have been doing lately in terms of broad reach?
Well, what have we done, guys?
There's a number of things. There's everything from Channel 9. Channel 9 is a big part of broad reach. You can go up to Channel 9 and just even do a search for Whidbey. There's some awesome videos up there on things you can do with Windows Forms and all the way through Burton. One of my favorite videos of all time, because Team System is something that my team pays attention a lot to, is the Burton demos. So there's a great long video up there called Late Night with the Burton Team.
That was awesome.
From a broad standpoint, Channel 9 is a big part of that. Blogging in general, everything from people on our team, people in our sales force that are weblogging, and Microsoft employees in the product groups talking about it.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of things that we do, in breadth, even speaking at conferences.
Right.
Community is a big, broad term that, encompasses a lot of things that we do at Microsoft. And we're trying to be there in the ways that make sense.
Here's an issue. Go ahead.
Carl, this is Scott. We also have this concept that's around technology programs called the Evangelism Rhythms, which is really just a process on how we lower the barriers of development for our partners and customers.
Right.
And in hopes that the outcome is that they accelerate their adoption of our technology, and in this case, of course, Whidbey. So there's things that we rely on from our field. We're lucky enough to have a pretty robust field organization that is able to scale the message on a worldwide basis and offer things like training and support and early access to bits to help reach the developers and architects and our partners and our customers.
Well, yeah, and exactly. And one of the ways that we leverage all that stuff that Scott just talked about is that we really do try to connect with RDs and MVPs in the field.
Right.
We really do. We really do rely on those communities quite a bit. To sort of get the message out, and then these guys are experts in Whidbey just as much as we are, and probably in most cases they probably know more than we do in some pretty deep areas in Whidbey.
Yeah, they're lucky. They actually get to talk to the customers. We just take the TPS reports from the engineers to the people that talk to the customers.
Right. Here's
a little Office Space reference there. Sorry.
TPS.
Oh God, TPS reports.
We'll match up with the Bobs later.
Yes. Yeah, meeting later.
Here's an issue that has come up in the third-party arena. And I won't say with who, but with a couple of people, and it really does make sense. Obviously, there's a lot of ex-VB6 programmers out in the world that have yet to see the .NET Lite, right? And they have either, been downsized, or they've moved on to other jobs, or they're back managing their Access databases and their Excel worksheets or wherever they were doing before, or they've moved on to Java or C# even, or VBNet. But there's this huge chunk that has yet been, I guess you would call them the undecideds, that have yet to embrace.
I've heard that term used a lot lately.
Undecideds?
Yeah, undecided.
Yeah, it seems to be in the news a lot these days. Yeah, so no, and I'm not going to go there. So it appears to me that the application developer, the 9-to-5 coder, the Mort, if you want to call him Mort, right? He doesn't read blogs, and he'll go to a conference occasionally. He'll or she will pick up a copy of Visual Studio Magazine, probably not much in MSDN Magazine. Probably limited exposure in general to the community stuff. How do you reach these people? Because it's certainly not going to happen with weblogs, the VBNet team doing weblogs, or I mean, you're going to reach the people who are serious about development and they've seen the .NET Lite, but how can you grab a hold of these, this huge demographic?
Yeah, that's just a great question. We were actually talking a bunch about that this week. This is Steve Cellini, and it is a challenge. One theory that I had was maybe, sometimes, depending on the size of the company, these guys are working side by side with perhaps folks who happen to be doing some C# programming or maybe even VB.NET programming. And maybe there is an opportunity there to sort of have some communication and community between them and there transfer some knowledge, and maybe that's a way that you sort of get folks to look in the direction of the managed version of this stuff. But it is a challenge.
I know it's a challenge for you guys because you don't want to sort of, make it all smoke and mirrors and magic for people, because then you run the risk of alienating the serious developers. But, it's like you have one face. Microsoft has one face. And if you go in one direction, the people who are expecting whatever, the other face will say, what's going on here? And that must be very difficult.
Well, yeah, it depends on what you mean by many faces. I mean, the VB team in the developer vision here, we're all the folks here, Jeff, Scott, Carter, myself, we're all in the developer vision, and we work pretty closely with the product teams. And we met this week, Carter and I met this week with Rob Copeland, who is, and his team, those guys are really, really passionate about the VB population.
Oh, yeah.
And they're really interested in reaching those guys, or interested in sort of getting them to see where they think the world is going on the managed code side.
Right.
It's something they do think about quite a bit. It's a tough call. I mean,
it is.
You've got people who've been writing VB code for years. Decades, more than how long now? 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a lot of VB code out there, and for many folks, it may be fine just the way it is. So,
right.
It's a great challenge. One idea we're wondering about, are there conferences? But as you said, and I think you correctly said, these folks may not be going to conferences. They may not be reading the blogs.
Right.
I know we're going to be trying. I'm saying it's difficult, but I know we're going to be trying.
I guess I'm saying I feel your pain. I mean, it's very easy.
Thank you.
It's very easy from outside, to be critical of efforts that go one way or the other. But you see, because here's a perfect example. Like VBNet Whidbey to me is awesome because it does address the people who just want to use wizards and drag and drop. You know what I mean? But it also has nothing taken away. And you can go as low as you want, and you can write the smartest code in the world, and that's not an issue at all. So it's really a one size, a solution that works on many, many levels. And you're addressing that crowd, but then
right,
again,
you do have a crowd where they've been using it and it works fine, and
right.
So the first thing is, how do you reach those guys? And I think the broad answer is you need to create a sense of community with them.
Yeah,
you have to find a way, whether it's within the company, whether it's local users groups, whether it's bigger, maybe specific conferences or partnering with third parties who have conferences that might reach these folks,
right? And
really show the advantage. And definitely not take an approach. Well, this is the future, so get on the bus or not. I mean, that's not the way.
Yeah.
That's not the way we're thinking about
this.
But I think the one-liner, if you're looking for one line, is community.
Right.
And community exists in many levels, and we're beginning to understand a little more about community with Channel 9.
Right.
And at our conferences, and I think we could really do a bit more here.
Yeah, and let me just finish the thought. The thought was that since you guys are, and I totally agree, community is what it's all about for me, obviously, right? You guys are adding stuff like the My namespace to VBNet and to make it, really accessible and all these great features in Whidbey, and at the same time, it's got the power underneath it. And then I hear, backlash from the C# programmers. Why don't we have My? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's like, you're not, it's like any effort that you use to push to talk to one segment of the market immediately the rest of the market who doesn't have any interest in that picks up on that and says, oh no, where are they going? It's like, you know what I mean? But if people would and this I'm talking to the C# programmers, to the heavy duty VBNet programmers out there, just relax, man. Let them do, they're a business. Microsoft is a business. Let them address the different markets that they need to address. You know what the information is that you need, you go get it and use it. And that's what it's all about. So when I see, the kind of stuff that we're going to be doing at Franklin's Net is we're going to be doing the hardcore VBNet Whidbey, but we're also going to be teaching, the marts. We're going to be teaching application development, which is, a lot different from component development and multi-threaded and all this kind of low-level stuff. We're going to be teaching, how to get data into a form, how to change it, how to write it back to the database, the basic stuff that, 90% of all business applications need to know how to do. And at the same time, we're going to tell these people that, for further understanding, depth of knowledge, and et cetera, these are the resources that you can go to learn more. But
I think that sounds great. Whidbey is a big release. There's a lot going on there, and I think we'll use the community thing. We'll introduce this, and I think we will learn. I think it's Whidbey is huge in a number of ways, and maybe we can talk about all the different areas. But on the VB side, we really are putting a lot of energy into VB.
Yes.
Yeah. You mentioned the My object, and there are a bunch of other things going on there.
Right.
I think that when people look at it, it'll be another reason to make that jump. But we can't just throw the code out there. We got to do a lot more with on the community.
I'm interested. This is Carter. I'm interested in your take on kind of the driver for the VB population that you're talking about. Because if I look historically, they kind of emerged from the need to get departmental apps up running quickly, talking to a basic database in a client server environment.
Exactly.
And that was the main driver behind the huge adoption and why you're calling them MORT programmers, just getting the job done for their department on a spot basis. Not
necessarily. They didn't start out in life as programmers. They inherited the role.
Right. And so one driver for their migration to VB.net, I think, is just that the class of problem that they're going to be asked to address has shifted since those days. Where
very good point.
They still need to do quick projects, but they're more likely to be glue-oriented projects where
stitching together the web services and pulling together all the different assets.
Right.
One of the things, you look at Whidbey, there's a lot of things that excite me. You look at that developer before where maybe they spun off an application that was a VB client server app. And nowadays, and maybe that metamorphosized down the road into ASP and ASP.NET possibly applications. Now look at Whidbey and look at Visual Studio Tools for Office. They can get that same level of integration and do it all within Excel.
Right.
And that's a real powerful thing for that level of a developer as well, too. So I think it's going to, the opportunity space for them to be able to do, really effective things is going to really grow.
Yeah.
In this time frame. Sorry, Carter.
No, I mean, I agree with you. The bottom line is, as soon as they see a class of problem that they're having a hard time solving and that is getting high demand, it'll be a natural trend to go to VB.net. We just need to reach them to kind of build awareness, and that's the area we're exploring. What are the right communities to reach them if they're not on blogs, if they're not on Channel 9 and other ones that we already are pushing?
How is your VB at the Movies website doing? Do you know?
Any of you guys know? I don't know.
It's been doing very well. It's been very popular.
What
am I going to say?
How does the word get out about that? I mean, it's linked on blogs and websites and stuff, but how do you get the word out about that? I mean, it seems like maybe a glossy postcard sent to...
Are you trying to sell advertising, Carl? Is it?
No. I can't sell anything to you guys. Let's just put it that way. So it's all free for you. But anyway, how do the companies know about that website? Which, by the way, is all about VBNet how-to videos. Go check out how to do this, how to do that, and it's really good. But there isn't a lot of buzz about it. It's kind of hard to
companies are going to have one savvy developer that may know, one or two that are going to hopefully spread the word within the company. I mean, I'm trying with a lot of the C++ guys, VB guys,
Mm-hmm.
old Fox Pro guys that are starting to come, work with me. And I'm like, hey, you guys really got to do this. You really got to go to .NET. Well, I mean, I've never done any VB.
Right.
Well, fine. C# is fine, but just go to .NET.
Right.
You got one guy, two guys, some other developers in there that are really trying to kind of evangelize, but only inside the departments. And
that's what I guess it takes, right?
I don't know what else, how else it would do. I mean, what do you do? Send out flyers to every, developer? I mean,
right. I know it's a tough problem.
It's tough.
Okay, back to you guys.
We are so excited about this stuff. We just can't figure out what to talk about next.
Right.
Features.
So you had Scott Guthrie on the show, and he talked about ASP.NET, right?
Yes.
Should we talk to you more about other parts of Whidbey?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
We were talking about the VB guy, and Jeff was saying, and Jeff and Carter were saying that what's going to attract the VB6 developer to VB.NET is, being faced with these new scenarios and not really being able to do it easily with what they know today. One of the technology is VSTO. Right,
Visual Studio Tools for Office.
VSTO is this kind of it's really cool stuff, and it if you're a power programmer, you might not normally pay attention to something like this, but it's pretty cool stuff, and it really solves a lot of problems easily.
Mm-hmm.
How much do you know about VSTO?
We actually did a show with Robert Green right when VSTO shipped.
Okay.
And
So that was big VSTO, the very first version of VSTO, but now there's the Whidbey's going to have a ton of improvements on it as well.
Yeah,
the new and improved version.
We haven't talked at all about that. Just to bring people up to speed, Visual Studio Tools for Office is a way that, and tell me if I mess up the elevator speech here, but it's a way that you can use either Word or Excel as the UI for your .NET application, for your Smart Client application. Now, the thing that's generally the problem with doing that with COM and script is that the code is embedded in the document, and you send out the document to people, and what if you need to update the code? The document's changed on the client, the code is now changed on the server. You can't just send a new document to people. So what they do is they give you the ability to write any code you want in .NET, VBNet, C#, whatever, compile it to an assembly, put that assembly on a network share, typically. You have security issues that you need to configure to be able to access that code, but then you send out a document which links to the assembly on the server, and the code stays on the server. When you need to update it, you just copy over a new version of it. And then people get the documents, which are Excel documents, Excel spreadsheets, Word documents with your code behind it, and .NET controls right in the UI. So,
exactly. They're document-centric solutions.
Right.
You can have Jeff's job.
There you go.
Okay.
You're hired.
Well, anyway, that's the elevator speech. So what's new for VSTO and Whidbey?
The big thing is task pane integration. With the first version, a lot of people built these applications, and they got the power of the framework to do a lot of great things. But a lot of the work that they had to do was, in the actual document space. One of the big things with Whidbey is they can actually work with the task pane and be able to get the UI metaphors all right there within the task pane. And that's a real powerful thing. That's where, with the first version was, a stepping stone to get out there and into the space. And this was a huge improvement, being able to get right into the task pane.
What is the task pane exactly?
That's that area to the right in Word or Excel where you've got a number of different options. So if you start a Word document to the right, it'll have either help or search results or different ways of finding templates and so forth.
Yeah.
Now you can get access to that right within your application. You can put UI there. The other thing is the tool support. It's just so much better. Dragging and dropping controls and right there working right within Visual Studio. And that's just awesome.
Yeah. That is cool. So there were issues with controls in the first version, or?
Well, the first version, it was, you had a lot of what you could write you could get a button on a page, and you didn't have any access to writing code to access the task pane.
Oh, okay. All right.
So now you actually can. So imagine an application, that integrates with this. The UI that you want your user to do, the controls and so forth, that can all be in the task pane, as opposed to on the sheet of paper.
This is Carter. Just to take a real-world example, there's major title and escrow company that has all the front end office workers in Microsoft Word able to just put in property and escrow and title closing right into a Word document, calling back-end web services, all integrated in the task pane. So you go to each section of the Word doc and you can put the owner, the address, the property description, all easily integrated by using that task pane integration.
That's cool. Yeah, the task pane is an area that I haven't even, that's usually where Clippy hangs out, right?
No.
Sometimes I'm just a joke. Sometimes there'd be like
you no longer have my job. Thank you.
Okay,
you're fired. Oh wait, I think that's trademarked.
Yeah, right. Then I gotta have bad hair to say that. Also there's stuff like dynamic help that shows up there and search panes and all sorts of things. That's what you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
When you say, yeah.
So you can work with that in that area, and then just the tool support is where it's at.
Right.
It's just a lot easier to build the document. It's just really progressed. That team is awesome, and it's really great to see what they're doing in Whidbey.
Sweet. Yeah, that's very cool.
Can I ask a question? It's actually not related to the office. I have some developers at work with me that are actually really interested in what the next level of Visual Source Safe is going to resemble in the new Whidbey. We are not super happy now with the way that .NET 2003 kind of integrates into it. We've had some problems, and we're just wondering, we've heard rumors that it's going to be very tightly integrated into the IDE, and we're just wondering if you guys have any insight possibly on that.
Talk about a meatball. Well, who wants to answer that one?
Well,
I don't know that we have anybody that can answer it.
Yeah.
Didn't you guys say that you were working? Oh, okay. You're not on the Burton team system, but that's what you're talking about, really.
The new team system would take
one of the
care of
big things that that we're putting a lot of investment in is just Visual Studio Team System.
Yeah.
And Team System's gonna is going to be there and make a big change for a lot of things. You've asked yourself those questions. Building software is hard, and my team is spread out, and we're really specialized, and tools don't fit well together, and we need to be able to pull these things here and reduce the complexity of doing that. And that's just one of the things that Team System is Burton that's going to be doing.
So it's going to replace VSS or
yeah.
So they're in project
but a lot
together.
more. It's workflow.
It's more like a project and VSS rolled to one, or
it's workflow. The whole workflow
Microsoft
problem,
project, okay.
Bugs,
tasks. And it targets,
project.
different roles like designer, developer, tester.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's got
Architect.
classes of tools within for each of those roles. And I think
I've got one of the things, if you look at the roles that we target with Team System, we target the architect, and it's like application modeling and infrastructure modeling and deployment modeling, and class modeling and UML modeling.
Awesome.
Then you think about the developer, code analyzers, static code analyzers, code profiling. What about testing? Load
Unit
testing,
testing.
manual testing,
Load
test
testing.
case management.
Okay, here's a real-world issue, actually, I came up with today, actually. I've got a DLL that's in several, and this is probably not the best way to develop this, but anyway, DLL that's in several of my other developers' code, a library I may have created, 6 months ago. I need to make a change to that. I can't remember which of my developers is using this. I want to be able to have an automated system know, hey, I just made a change to this DLL. If I have everything in this team system, my DLL, their projects, the main project, several main projects, I make a change to this. I want them to know about it so they can either update my web service, reference, or get a new version of the DLL. How are they going to know that? Is this something that I could use?
Here, let me clue you in. You make a network share.
I know. Yeah, I know. And then I have to remember, oh, God, where's everything? And just send it out to, the entire development. We've got something like 50 developers. Maybe 6 of them are using it. I don't know who they are.
So the code name that we call for our new source control system is called Hatteras. Have you ever heard that term before?
No.
So that was the code name for, we have SourceSafe 2005. And it's called Hatteras. And
separate from the team system, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
Oh, okay. So team system is not going to be
team
replacing
system's
it.
much more.
Team system is the overall arching, system for project management and focusing on the architect, the developer, and tester. But Hatteras is what is going to be SourceSafe 2005, I'm assuming the name is, but that's the code name that we call about it. If that helps.
I was watching the videos from TechEd, where the keynote video where they went through the whole process of using the team system. It was great. They had, they went through the whole process of software development, exercising all the various aspects of team system. I wonder if there's a place at Microsoft.com where anybody who even wasn't at TechEd can go and watch that. Because or Channel 9 or anything, because I think that video will go very far towards letting people know what this stuff is. And I don't think it's something that should be charged for.
Okay, it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, it's a great
I know
video.
that as I'm speaking here, I'm going onto the TechEd site to see how much content is up there.
Do they have all the?
I don't think they do, but I'm going to go check.
Okay.
Sometimes the stuff they expire this stuff because it goes out of date or something like that. But I hear what you're saying. If you've never seen a team systems demo before, it's pretty cool. And it covers a lot of the scenarios, like the one that was talked about before about change management. They are trying to cover scenarios holistically, end to end.
Oh, it looks like somebody found something in the chat room here. Let me see.
One of the things what somebody wrote, there's a wiki that actually talks a lot about team system that the Three Leaf guys have. And one of my favorite comments on here about the new source control system is Hatteras is a spicy new SQL Server-based, fully transactional client-server source control system that will blow your socks off.
Wow.
I didn't write that. That's what the Three Leaf guys said.
All right, I got a Shrinkster URL to that video here. It's shrinkster.com/1J7. Shrinkster.com/1J7. And that will take you to a page at TechEd where that gives you the general 2004 general session demo. Awesome.
That's the magic of live radio right there.
Yeah, I love it. Very great video. That was one of the first. I remember watching that and then watching it offline, and it was just fantastic.
Just the whole set of VSTS tools. There's one kind of theory that we bat around inside Microsoft about how enterprises and just even the developers that you're describing as morts need to behave a lot like the sophisticated ISV population used to behave. So, the enterprise is the new kind of ISV where the same sophisticated tools that were used by ISVs now are needed in enterprises. And I think there's going to be a whole new wave of applications that are either customized or developed on really short time cycles, in large part because of the ease with which you can coordinate everything through VSTS.
Yeah. So true. Well, guys,
does that notion make sense of enterprise as new ISV? Does that resonate with what you know, or does that does it sound like?
I'm not sure. I don't know what to think because basically, I don't think you can change behavior of I don't think you can say these people need to change the way they do things or change the way they think because it's just not going to happen. But I do think that it's a good call to action for the alert people out there.
I think one of the questions that we were thinking about is if you look at enterprises wanting to use increasingly specialized solutions, like somebody's written a great application for costing particular manufacturing kind of runs. And,
right.
How you incorporate that into your particular company, I think is a challenge. Even if you look at Microsoft with our use of CRM software from Siebel, you buy it as an application, but you need to have it kind of touching every place in your organization that it makes sense, whether it's in the portal that I use to look up a customer before an evangelism call, or and so that process of taking any kind of solution and getting it into the basic workflow of your company, I think is going to be increasingly a challenge. So that's where I see as a huge opportunity for VSTS, where you can take solutions, tailor them, customize them, and have that same predictability in the installation as you would if you were a professional ISV. Yeah,
and it sounds really, with all these things that we're saying and the benefits of team system and all these things, it still seems like an option to people. But I swear to God, after you watch what you can do and the way you set things up and work, basically introducing workflow to the whole development process, right? you won't want you'll have to have this. I mean, it's just, why would you do it any other way? You know, it ensures that you're going to produce things on time with less bugs, hopefully no bugs, right? You'll have test cases. You'll have communication between all the members on your team. You have defect tracking. You have architecture. You have, work items, which basically means that an architect says, oh, this particular class needs to be created. You assign that work item to a developer. They turn on their machine in the morning. Boom, there's their list of work items that they do. They finish it. They check it in. It's like,
it won't write your code for you, though. But it'll help put you up in the right place.
It won't write your code, but I can just see all of the meetings that people that they don't have to go to now, because
there's a tagline: team system. You'll have to go to less meetings.
Absolutely,
weekly status meetings really blow. I'm telling you, they do. They do. To talk about what? Well, I'm waiting on this guy for this, and he hasn't gotten back to me on that. And
so, what's the status on bug number 1047?
I don't know, because didn't you get the email? You didn't get the email? Oh, well, all right. I'll resend you the email.
What's your email address? Okay, hang on. Let me put it into my iPod here.
Yeah. Oh, God.
Have you guys been looking at our calendars? Because believe me, that.
All right, guys, listen, we're going to take a break for about 10 minutes and pay some bills and listen to some music, and we'll be back on the other half of the hour, so stick around, okay?
Okay.
All right.
Got to thinking that it just doesn't matter, baby. Got to thinking that we're all alone. Got to find a way to reconcile this problem. Got to find a way to make it home. If I could just hold on for years or just a minute, I could make it through the final haul. I'd jump a ship to get to where my mind can breathe in. Just get ready to answer the call. And on a clear night, I can see my brothers. On a clear night, the elders in the sky beckon to me with some strange communication, and I can hear them. I can hear them. Oh, I can hear them call my name. Always searching for some deep and hidden meaning. Never happy in the place I am. Truth changes, but the facts remain the same. Just to be amazed every day. And on a clear night, I can see my brothers. On a clear night, the elders in the sky beckon to me with some strange communication, and I can hear them. I can hear them. Oh yeah. Oh, I can hear them call my name. Call my name.
I love how that just abruptly ends right there. That was Strange Communication from Franklin Brothers. And this is a little ditty we did at pwop.com, just as filler music. It's called Groove for Rory, but that's not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about Data Dynamics. They have this really cool product that you may have heard of called ActiveReports.net. And ActiveReports.net isn't it's not a huge report server like SQL reporting services or Crystal reporting services. What it is it's a report designer and generator where the reports go into your application, and of course, they're embedded in your assemblies. And it works with ASP.NET and Windows Forms. You have all the features, the reporting features you come to expect from a reporting solution. And one of the biggest benefits of it is that it can output in PDF format or HTML format or just plain old text. And it isn't going to break the bank either, folks. It's a great licensing scheme. We love this product. And we know lots of other people, professionals in the industry that count on it. ActiveReports.net. Check it out at www.datadynamics.com. Data Dynamics, a great supporter of .NET Rocks from the beginning, almost from the beginning. From the beginning of our live shows, anyway. But also a sponsor of the upcoming .NET Rocks movie, which you'll hear about soon. Somebody asked me today what that song was, that little ditty we just did there. And that was one of these 3 a.m. creations that I come up with sometimes. Started with a drum track, put about 8 microphones on the drums, and did the drums. I knew exactly what I was going to play. And then put down an acoustic guitar and a bass, and then the lead guitar on top of it, and a little mixing. And, 3 hours later, it was done. I just love that. It's the kind of stuff I've been wanting to do all my life, and the career at Franklin's Net sort of made that possible. Well, anyway, we're back with Microsoft evangelists Jeff Sandquist, Steve Cellini, Carter Maslan, and Scott Burmester. And we're talking about Whidbey and the Burton team system in particular. And it's great stuff, and I can't wait to start teaching people how to use this and to start using it. I don't have a team of software developers here, but I certainly love the technology, and I'm really into it. So,
this is Carter. As part of that team system, there's also correlation to the whole deployment environment. So if you look, I don't know if you covered in your prior show on ASP.NET, the strongly typed configuration APIs for the app servers. Did you cover that?
I don't believe we did.
So one of the cool things is that everything about the configuration of your website on ASP.NET is strongly typed through these XML configuration files. So you can query your deployment to make sure that you've got all the right settings just with strongly typed XML. And all of that stuff can also be described in Team System to say, here are the characteristics of this server that you have to kind of comply with in order to be deployed on that server. So it gives you a lot of confidence going from code and test into deployment.
Yeah, I love the fact that you have these designers for deployment and designers for your infrastructure. That's one of the things that I really enjoyed watching that demo was, they just wanted to change the way that the web servers talk to the SQL servers and the DMZ, blah, blah, blah. And just by dragging and dropping lines between their machine icons, it actually goes out and makes those changes. Yeah. And it's really incredible.
Yeah. And it just some preliminary feedback from some of our early deployments. There's a customer live on Beta 1 that has literally had no unscheduled downtime. And
wow.
A lot of that is, I think, from the confidence in configuration.
Yeah, this customer receives over 4 million page hits since updating with the first beta. Averages about 600 unique visitors.
Wow, that's cool. Yeah. Hey, have you guys, any of you guys listened to the show before, other than the ones that you've been on?
Yeah, all the time.
Been listening lately? Have you been listening to Kirk Webb's Weird Wide Web Spot? Well, if you're listening in the beginning of the show, we had this. We have a poll. See, Kirk Webb, who's the guest co-host,
the quiet guest co-host.
Yeah, he usually does a spot called the Weird Wide Web, in which he finds weird websites for people, for us, and he tells us all about them. But, we got some feedback in the blogs from some grumpy people who said, what's happening to .NET Rocks? They're going silly on us and all this stuff. So we put up a poll to see whether or not Kirk should do the bit. And while I think there's a lot of support for Kirk doing the bit, they also want to hear him branch out a little bit. But anyway, you guys get to enjoy this and comment. This is the Weird Wide Web with Kirk Webb.
Utterly amazing.
Horrible.
That is if you want to comment. Mr. Webb.
I'm back. For now. Anyway.
He's back and he's pissed.
That's right. And I'm wet from being out in the rain.
Yeah. What you got for us?
We have some slightly toned down, slightly neutered links for
man, I'm disappointed.
The Microsoft Borg here this evening. And what we have here is, I will send you
We're not going to have the smart clamp here?
No. This is probably going to be the most tasteless, but okay. I'm wondering, I want to ask you assimilated folks out there in Microsoft land, how many of you guys have actually done this? Go to shrinkster.com/1IA. There has to be somebody. I'm not saying Mr. Bill G himself does this, but, there's got to be some Microsoft freak that's pet has died and they've mummified him. That's shrinkster.com 1IA. Oh, boy. Oh, wow. Boy. Now, on the left there...
Oh, great. I'm going to get fired for browsing...
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, right.
So
ITG
this is like...
just set on a big alert.
So you get
Somebody's
a bronze...
knocking on my door now. Okay, you guys will be right back.
This is actually mentioned in the handbook.
The black helicopters are coming out in the... Hot. All the SWAT guys are coming down, rappelling out of the ropes. Get it. Go.
So this is... You get a bronze of your...
Oh, no. They have bronze, they have marble, they have mausoleums. They will cover them in gold leaf.
No, I have a pet that I don't like. He hasn't passed on yet. Can I send him to him? It's this little Cocker Spaniel. He's really yappy. He barks all the time. I don't think he likes me.
It's
Can I send
extra.
him?
I like the picture in the lower right where there's literally like a whole litter.
Yeah.
My grandma has 15 cats.
Yeah,
I think there's one way to preserve her loved ones after they pass.
So the fellow that has the King Tut gold thing, do you think he's single?
I think all these guys are single. What makes you think it's a he, though?
Yeah.
Oh,
you know,
check out the pet agreement on the left.
Is it good?
It's pretty serious.
Oh, wow.
I think it actually says the animal must be dead, though.
Okay, well, that's... Leo is going to live another day.
Well, if you ship it, depending on how you ship it.
FedEx, yeah.
It's the 2-day versus 5-day shipment.
Exactly. The scary stuff, if you go to costs, it goes from $6,000 to over $128,000.
No way.
They are building mausoleums for your pets.
Oh, man, we are in the wrong business.
Creepy.
There's one born every minute.
Wow.
P.T. Barnum was right.
Oh, my goodness. Ugh. Okay, well.
That's insanely weird.
Slightly insanely weird.
And I like the live cat next to the mummified cat.
Yeah.
Right?
He's like,
hello, this doesn't freak me out at all. No,
Mommy? Mommy?
Please
Is that
don't.
you in there? Mommy? Mommy?
I wonder if that site's using ASP.net.
How
Really.
come I can't smell you anymore, Mommy? How come I can't smell you anymore?
That's terrible.
Creepy. All right. Or enough about mummified pets. This next site is actually dedicated to our friend Richard Campbell, who is no longer with us, even though he'll be here soon.
No. He's not.
I know. He's just been gone for so long.
It's a hiatus for him.
Shrinkster.com /1J6. Excuse me. I'm sorry. And it is this is Gadget Boy. This guy.
Ooh.
Wow. Just scroll down to these pictures. He
Once
actually
again, he is
carried...
single. No.
Surprise!
What's with the wet ones, though?
Yeah, I know. He carries all this stuff around with him.
Oh my God! I thought I was bad.
The guy's got what was it, like 150 pounds worth of stuff, and extra battery packs for everything.
Oh no, he's got a Wi-Fi seeker. We gave those out on a show. Remember? That's probably him, the guy who won it.
Okay. All right.
That's just a detail of all the different devices that he's carrying.
You notice we're not really laughing as much on this end.
Yeah, because you're like, I got that. Yeah, I got that one. I got half of this stuff. Actually, I'm carrying it now.
Have you ever tried those Etymotic isolator headphones?
No.
They're down on the bottom of the page.
Yeah, he says you can't hear anything.
They are insane. I used a pair, but they're made by this company that makes like hearing aids, and I used some, and I've actually got some on order. They should be here soon, and they are like the most incredible headphones I've ever used.
I was tempted when I saw
Did you go for
them.
the 4s or the 6s? I have to ask.
Oh,
I'm the
I went
sound
for the
guy.
6s.
I'm into this stuff. Did you get the ER4s or the ER6s?
I got the ones that were the white ones. I think it's the 6s.
Yeah, the 6i, I
Yeah.
think.
Yes, I got the 6i.
So you don't need to use a headphone amp to plug them into your iPod.
Exactly, that's the ones I got.
Do you need like a doctor's prescription for these? Because they look like they go in and they stay in.
They
Are
in,
better
you don't
for
need a
your
prescription.
ears than normal earphones. They are incredible.
Wow.
It is just it's so cool. I used them on a plane, and you can't hear anything outside of what you're listening to.
Even if there's like a low rumble, you can't hear that?
No, it totally was. It was incredible for on a plane.
And what happens like when you stand up to get out of your seat and you forget to take them out? Does it
You pull your laptop flying across, and you go, yeah. And you hurt your ears badly.
Well, we were talking with Dave Wecker a few weeks ago, and he said that the actual noise cancellation technology they use today has been watered down because it's too dangerous. If they used all the technology at their disposal, they'd be too dangerous. People wouldn't be able to hear people talking to them.
Yeah, mine have shipped. I'm supposed to get them like this week, so I can't wait.
I got turned off by seeing people needing to lick them to get them in their ears. I don't think I can do that.
Yeah, you got all and you have the wax on them from before.
but that's why you lick them.
Oh.
Kind of tasty, but kind of salty. But
I thought Kirk was bad. All right, so what's next, man?
Okay. All right. Well, I didn't think the Weird Wide website would I've got that. This is great. And these guys talking about it. Yikes.
I've got some of this stuff.
Segway, yeah. I actually saw one of those in New York the other day. It was actually pretty creepy. Okay. Next one. I'm a big beer fan and a big haiku fan on top of that.
Yeah.
This is beerhaiku.com. This is great because it's why is it I drink? I have only one answer. I'm a Marine. Oh boy. Let's next. Actually,
there we go.
This site just got completely swamped.
It's not 'cause I'm drunk that I'm getting arrested, but drunk and naked.
Words to live by right there. Beer haiku. Okay, last one.
One more. My blind date is huge, but she'll lose 5 pounds per beer. I can't drink that much.
Ouch. Now, this one may actually cause the Black Hawk helicopters with the SWAT team guys to fly out. This is Shrinkster.com. You know what? We didn't even give out the last...
Well, that was beerhaiku.com.
Beerhaiku.com.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. This one is Shrinkster.com /1IB. And this is actually a...
2IB. No, 1IB. Yeah.
1IB. Yeah. And this is from military.com. Don't ask me how I got this. All you Star Trek geeks, antimatter weapons are now actually a possibility.
Okay, is this crazy?
No,
or
it's
what?
actually
Antimatter.
antimatter. If I'm totally serious.
Antimatter.
Air Force wants antimatter weapons. Yes. This is.
Who wouldn't want antimatter weapons?
Exactly.
I mean, come on.
But now it's
If you want weapons, why wouldn't you have antimatter? If you had a choice, matter and antimatter, you want the antimatter.
Well, seeing as how there's a certain party in office, this actually, with a price tag of, what is it? Something like $100 trillion a gram or something like that. May actually happen. I'm former military. I'm actually ex-Navy, and I get this. My dad signed me up for this great site, and I get it once a month. And I looked at this, and I was like, "You've got to be kidding!" And this is actually for real.
So what's weird about this?
Silence.
You should see the look in his eye you just gave me right there.
Die. Weird?
Antimatter.
Antimatter. Come on. You guys are geeks, right? Right?
It's true. It is weird. It's weird in a Star Trek kind of way.
So what is your plan to do with this?
Yeah, right.
With antimatter?
Yeah.
He's going to power his laptop for 6 years.
Oh, man. Well, I'm not going to blow anything up. How's that?
Well, that's good enough for me. And that's the Weird Wide Web.
Utterly amazing.
Told you. Toned down.
That was pretty good, though. I think the pats would have been. All right. So what the heck were we talking about? We were talking about Burton. What about some of the more interesting customers? We were talking about Keyhole before and some of that stuff. What are some of the other things that are the companies that you guys are working
actually
with?
Driving off a Keyhole, one of the things that was motivating them to migrate over to Whidbey, they were using the C++ compiler, version 8 in Whidbey.
Mm-hmm.
And they wanted to make their services programmable. And being on managed code, having access to all the design tools for developers, they actually have their component used by another ISV that supplies government solutions for like field inspectors when they come and take a look at your house, whether or not you can make that addition, or a major commercial building, whether it's safe for occupancy, that kind of inspection, as well as like after an earthquake, making sure that you can return to your home safely.
Yeah.
And so they actually made their standalone application into a component that can be used by other ISVs. So one of those ISVs is Accela over in the East Bay here, and they do government inspection solutions. So just phenomenal ability to integrate all of the parcel data, all of the kind of water mains, power lines, any kind of information you want, and superimpose that right on top of the Keyhole visualization. So field inspectors on a tablet can just complete the inspection and file it without
That's very cool.
Coming back home to file paperwork. So it's pretty phenomenal.
That is pretty cool. Hey, I do have to ask this question because we here in the Northeast there's a lot of medical technology. And it seems like the medical field has been a very tough nut to crack in terms of technology. And they spoke about this in the debates earlier this week as well, the presidential debates. But, the way I look at it is that the medical industry, is a little bit paranoid because they're dealing with people's lives. They're kind of a little bit protective of the systems that they have in place that work and sort of a little reticent to adapt technology for that reason. Do you think that the medical industry, or what do you see in terms of the medical industry opening up, software-wise, communication-wise, technology-wise? Do you think it's happening with .NET? Do you think that we finally are convincing them that this is a stable and reliable platform for developing electronic medical records and transcription software and billing software and the kinds of things that can integrate? Because this is an industry that's absolutely screaming for service-oriented architecture for .NET stability, for tablet PC development. What do you think about that?
I agree. This is Carter. But I don't think actually the problem has been kind of a lack of reliance on the stability of the platform. I think it's been kind of who's going to finance this change. It often seems like it's almost an investment banking problem.
Oh. Interesting.
Where if the reason I say that is if everybody's got a great return on implementing these technologies, and you can literally cut out 29 cents of every dollar spent in healthcare,
right?
Why isn't it happening?
Right.
And it turns out that a big part of that why is just where does the money come from to bootstrap the system? Because it's the whole network effect that you need to get going.
Right.
And now we're seeing some major movement. Tommy Thompson, who's the head of Health and Human Services, has got a huge effort that is inclusive of kind of proof of concept budgets and kind of efforts to penetrate rural healthcare. And you're starting to see a lot of interest in what can be done when everybody's coordinated around standard schemas for personal health records and things. And there's actually a lot of great movement happening. I think there's going to be over the next few years a major change there. You saw it in the debates the other night where Bush even referenced that.
Right.
You combine that with as soon as people are spending their own money on healthcare with the healthcare savings accounts, there's going to be a whole consumerism thing. So if you see what it does for digital media and stuff, you can imagine if people's healthcare decisions are going to be a much bigger demand for.
Do you think that's really going to happen?
Yeah, because let's say that somebody says to you, "Look, we're not going to give you reimbursement for health insurance, but we are going to contribute to a savings account that you have control over." You're going to become a much smarter consumer about healthcare and demand a lot more for your money because you're the one that's paying the checks. And if that stuff happens, I think there's going to. It's the same reason with MS Money, you want to manage your finances because it's your money, your finances. Same thing with healthcare. I think will be a big driver.
Yeah,
I think if I could sort of. This is Steve Cellini. If I could try to circle back to a point Carter was making earlier about the analogy of enterprise as a new ISV. I mean, if my company, Microsoft, sent me, a letter every time I, borrowed, used a stapler or took a pencil from the office supply cabinet, if I got a letter in the mail every time, I would say, what the heck's going on here? This is a really inefficient way to run a business. But every time I go to the doctor, I get a little letter with, yet another piece of paper telling me I went to the doctor and how much it cost.
Right.
And there's no feedback loop there, Whereas in the enterprise, I work there, I see it, I might even be a stockholder, it's very obvious to me where the money's going.
Right.
Again, that's sort of a feedback loop.
And even beyond the administration, some of the cool technology things that are happening. Picture how there's a nursing shortage.
Right.
Picture
my wife's a nurse. I know all about
it. Picture intensive care unit where if you don't act within the first 5 minutes of a deteriorating condition, your overall expenses and nursing effort is exponentially higher with every minute that passes.
Right.
So, the ability to have .NET as a connectivity platform for all these devices and information visualizations is just huge ROI for healthcare industry and just a great use of the connectivity technologies that we're all pushing around .NET. So I think there's going to be a lot of good progress.
Do you really think that this banking, financing is really the only issue with healthcare? Because that may be one issue, but I really see a real fear and reluctance to have them depend on computers for things that they do manually, even though they're horribly inefficient. They have their systems, and I don't know if you've witnessed other reasons firsthand. I
agree that there are definitely other reasons in terms of their existing. I was picking the one that I thought was kind of the blocker, but I agree with you that there's also a generational thing where for example, my son's orthodontist, a young doctor, he's like completely digital, has got all the 3D models of the mouth, and so it really just depends. I think.
True.
But I think one thing that's really going to be really dragging this industry forward is HIPAA compliance. It's if you've gone to the doctor or picked up a prescription, there's HIPAA. You can see the effects of HIPAA all over the place.
Right, they have to do stuff.
I just don't imagine how that will continue without really being much more automated.
And I think that's where, if you look at the contributions of kind of WinForms and Click Once technology in Whidbey,
Yeah.
There's a whole kind of metaphor for computing now, where every time you want to do something big in healthcare, for example, you're thinking, okay, who's going to host the server that we're all going to integrate with?
Right.
How are we going to administer user IDs and passwords for this shared resource? And I really think with some of the client deployment technologies in Whidbey, like Click Once, where you've got kind of secure, easy deployment, that the client can become kind of this integration point that is more secure than pushing your data out to third-party servers.
Sure.
So when you talk about patient privacy and personal information, the whole prospect of writing software that can have that controlled locally and shared on a selective basis, I think is a huge driver for client technologies that are in Whidbey.
Cool. Hey, I want to get back to the thing we were talking about in the beginning of the show, which is the sort of the languages of Whidbey, C# 2.0 and VBNet. And some recent announcements, Jeff, you were telling me in the chat room about C# are pretty fascinating and pretty exciting.
Yeah, one of the things that that the VB people have always had was edit and continue. And today, Soma, who's the vice president over the Visual Studio Group, announced that edit and continue is going to be in C#.
Yeah.
So that's a big deal.
That is a big deal.
And that was like one of the top feedback requests that we've had from customers is that when are you going to support edit and continue in C#? And are you going to do it in Visual Studio 2005? And this morning we announced it, and in about next week, in about a week, there's going to be another community technology preview, and it's going to have it in there. So that's really exciting.
You know what's great about this is that there's a whole atmosphere of C, C++, now C# developers. There's a whole environment that or a mindset that says we don't want the the bells and whistles. We don't want the things that make us more efficient developers. We don't want the wizards. We don't want we want to use Notepad, and we want to use as much manual typing as possible because, that just forces a sort of attention to detail that you need to do really intricate work. But I disagree. I mean, if I was a C# programmer, I would want to use IntelliSense. I would want to use edit and continue. And I think the reason that they don't, there's this whole faction of people out there that don't think that this is a great deal is because they never had it before. And they can do without it, and so they do. And it's the kind of thing where it ain't broke, so don't fix it. They don't know how good they could have it if they had these tools. And it doesn't mean that C# is getting dumber. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It doesn't mean that, if C# got the my namespace, does that mean that a C# programmer is now somehow dumbed down, or C# is dumbed down as a language? It's like VBNet. It has those things, but you can still do all the low-level stuff. And I think that's good. I think the reason people the C crowd disliked VB was because it wasn't architecturally object-oriented, because it didn't have the fundamental architecture to support the kind of applications they needed to write. Not the fact that it had edit and continue and that it had the drag-and-drop designer. As soon as the C# people saw the VB-like designer in .NET, they went nuts. They were like, why are we doing it the hard way in C++ when we can just create Windows forms and double-click the buttons and write the code behind? They thought that was the greatest thing. So I see a difference there between, you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. This is Carter. I think one of the things that used to keep people away from kind of integrated tool sets was the worry that it would somehow contaminate their code or get them into a corner where they're unable to further specialize or subclass. And I think that's one of the great things now is that you really don't paint yourself into a corner, even if you're leveraging all the automation of wizards and GUI layouts and things.
Right. And the key is that what my rule of using wizards is I don't use any wizard that generates code that I don't understand and couldn't write. And that's when you get into trouble. Yeah.
Right.
So that's fantastic. Edit and continue in C#. I think that's great. And I think, if I was a diehard C# programmer using it all the time, I would welcome it. Certainly. So what are some of the other evangelism points that you talk to people about when talking about C# 2.0?
Well, to be honest, at least this is Carter on my side. A lot of the times we focus on the underlying platform capabilities.
Yeah.
That may be surfaced in every one of the languages.
Mm-hmm.
So if you look at the core of all of the languages that get into intermediate code that's ultimately running on the CLR, if you make improvements, for example, in XML serialization, that just does tremendous things for all of those languages and all the apps that are on those languages. So some of the things that we kind of trumpet are around the improvements in Whidbey for XML serialization and data. So the system.data and system.xml.
Well, here's a question along those lines. If in last week's show, Rory Blythe made the now infamous comment to Chris Sells when he was describing, he said he could describe the compact framework in 10 words or less to Chris Sells, who's just getting into the compact framework stuff. And Rory said, all it is a wrapper around system not implemented exception. Which was funny. Of course, it's not true. But...
And Rory works for Microsoft now.
Yeah.
Really cool.
But he was just sort of giving voice to the experience that, it's with a compact framework, it's not what you can do, it's what you can't do, because everything that you can do, you already know how to do if you're using, writing WinForms apps. But that's a good question, is what's new in the compact framework for Whidbey? Do we have a new compact framework? Is there going to be a new?
Yeah, I mean, there's two major differences. One is just writing code that interops with native code while you're writing managed code is much, much easier. So that's huge. Just being able to call seamlessly between managed and native code is huge, especially in the device space.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, and then the second thing I think is most likely around just the whole data access mechanism where, if you write ADO.NET code, you've got that capability on the compact framework, and there's big improvements there just in having that as a data access model.
Now you were talking, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, so I think those are probably kind of the two things that would stand out most for me are just the interop between managed and unmanaged code and kind of the good, consistent ADO programming model for data access.
Mm. You brought up XML serialization. There isn't a binary formatter, for example, in the compact framework we have today. Are you introducing any kind of serializer in the compact framework in the next version?
Yeah, I'm embarrassed to say I don't know on the compact framework side. I wish I had Craig Niebel online to answer that.
Actually,
I know
he's
just
on our list.
Serialization on the client, there's huge improvements, including binary serialization that literally 4 to 6 times faster in most situations.
Wow.
And then on some things that are tied to SQL Server, you've got huge improvements. Like if you were just to serialize something like 100,000 rows out of a database, this is anecdotal, so obviously this is recorded, but don't quote me on the statistic,
Okay.
but it was 80 times faster to select 100,000 rows with the new system.data and XML library. So, and then to insert 4 times faster, and just in general, it's made everything a lot faster because the fact that at the core of .NET is a lot of XML data handling, these basic improvements in serialization are just phenomenal for the rest of the system.
Are you using compression at all? Is there a compression component to Whidbey that we don't have currently?
So in terms of the serialization to binary,
or anything, but yeah, let's start there.
Yeah, I mean, basically, there's two things that are big in the whole serialization and reading and writing of XML. One is just the ability to do it in binary. So that's compression in the form of going from text to binary. And then the second is, it used to be that you used to have these specialized classes for different types of XML reading. So if you wanted a validating reader versus a plain text reader, if you cared about UTF-8 encoding versus UTF-16, instead there's more of like a factory model, a class factory model, that kind of pattern where you can open up an XML reader, set some attributes, and read all different kinds of things. So that's kind of on the programming side. So you get the fundamental serialization improvements and then the programming improvements with the ease of reading and writing without knowing a priori what kind of data you're going to be handling.
That's awesome. Nice little tip there. Why don't we do this as long as we're talking about new features and tips and stuff? Why don't I ask each of you guys which are some of your favorite things that are coming in Whidbey that we may not have heard about? And by that, I don't mean anything that's going to violate NDA, but just, we've heard the major features of ASP.NET, of VB.NET, of C# 2.0. What are some of the little things, like the serializer thing is something I never heard of.
Right.
Before. So,
well, just to close out on the ASP side, because a lot of people have heard about things like web parts and master pages and things like that.
Right.
But did you talk much about just the general purpose provider model?
Are you talking about the data provider, the way to hook into the data provider?
Yeah, but it's not just around providing. Yeah, data provider is one example of it. But
a binding provider, basically.
Yeah,
right.
One of the cool concepts in ASP, I think, is .NET 2.0 is that you've got this provider model that lets you specialize at any layer of the app server. So, instead of it just being a black box, you can literally change the behavior at multiple different levels. And a lot of people, once they've spent some time with ASP.NET, I think that's one of the aha moments is, wow, you can upgrade to different releases of software and have completely specialized solutions that are basically subclassing the app server. And so you see that in the way that web parts are implemented, in the way that membership services and administration are all implemented. But I think that's a huge kind of, but maybe slightly less known aspect of ASP.NET.
That is huge. I think Scott mentioned that in his show, but yeah, it's a great feature. I haven't looked into it myself personally. But it looks, the way it was presented to me was that if you don't like the way that, for example, the data provider is working within, at its particular level, you can subclass it. And so,
right. And some of the things that I'm excited about going forward on that is you look at like a common scenario in companies where they need to have single sign-on or they want a sign-on that works across their partner organizations. Well, with ASP, you have a login page. It's kind of a standard widget that's also compliant with the provider model. Mm-hmm. So you could picture a scenario where you just kind of upgrade your system so that now they do full WS security-based federated authentication across a whole bunch of different companies and not really have a huge application coding change on all your front-end login pages. So I think the flexibility it gives you is going to enable some phenomenal things.
A question from the chat room: is the binary formatter going to serialize the data set as binary now instead of XML, which it does currently?
It does serialize in binary, but the question is around data set, and I'm not sure.
Sets.
Let me try to look up the answer to that offline while other people are talking.
Okay. So that was Steve. How about Jeff?
That was Carter.
That was Carter.
I'm sorry, that was Carter. I'm sorry.
Let's go to Steve next.
Yeah, let's go to Steve next.
One feature
you're hired. I'm fired. You're hired.
This is Steve. One feature that I really think is really cool. It's not a low-level feature, and it's probably been talked about before, but is the integration of the Whidbey CLR into Yukon, the SQL Server.
Yes.
I'm a database guy from by training in previous careers, and the ability to use first-class languages in the third tier in the server to and the programming environment to write high quality modern to use a high quality modern language to implement store procedures, user defined functions, UDTs, user defined data types is pretty advanced stuff. And I think, it's maybe to folks who are used to programming on the first tier, the client, or the second tier with ASP.NET, this is sort of slightly less sexy, this stuff that happens all the way back there on the third tier, that mysterious database stuff. But, it is really a step forward to be able to use, any CLR language to manipulate SQL and to build abstractions. You could always do store procedures, but now you can do functions and then create sort of these object-oriented things called user-defined data types. that's pretty advanced stuff.
Tell me about
really,
those user-defined data types real quick.
Well, the idea is that you can, if you're using SQL, if you use SQL, you're used to saying, this is what the data looks like. These are my columns.
Yeah. Varchar or whatever.
But now you can associate code with that, and you can have code that effectively implements derived columns, or code that is that wraps the behavior of a column. So it's a way to abstract. It's no longer there's data there. Now you can say there's data in code which gives you behavior.
So, for example, I could send a data set to an advanced store procedure that I write that would break it down into its parts and call. I think
maybe a simpler thing is you could say this column is implemented completely in code.
Oh, okay.
And that's an extreme case, but it means that you can have a column that is gets its behavior by looking at some other columns and does some smart stuff there. So it really does bring it brings that third tier a little bit forward into the future with this managed code stuff now.
Are DBAs who aren't programmers afraid?
I think DBAs are always afraid. When it comes to the database, there's all sorts of anecdotal stories about how DBAs lock down the database and no one gets read access, and everything is there are variations, and all access is through a store procedure. Don't get near that data, and so DBAs are going to be always afraid, which is rooted in history as a way to keep the data safe, which is understandable.
Yeah,
I think this makes it a little bit easier to write better code. You've got, as I keep saying, you've got these modern languages now that are and modern development environments and modern concepts like functions, that it's easier to write better code there. In the old days, people made fun of Fortran because it had go-tos, and people derided go-tos as being evil because it was harder to. You ended up writing poor code, or code that was less provable.
Yeah.
Now you're bringing this abstraction to that back tier, and that's got to mean higher quality code. And I think DBAs might eventually feel a little better about that in the future.
Now let's say I'm a programmer and I have a relationship with Attila, my DB administrator, and the DB administrator is all DB, doesn't write code, wants to learn, has a programming class in their horizon in the next few months. I want to write some extended, if you want to call them extended store procedure, but I want to write some store procedures in code. I go to my DBA and they say no. And you say, well, then you write it. And they say, well, I don't know how. I mean, it's a very human sort of political kind of office politics thing happening here. Do you see this as some as a barrier to using this technology?
I think that's such a that's sort of like such a important and sort of high level issue that I'm not sure that the particular feature I'm talking about is going to change the world that way. I think it'll help in that you can sort of start talking. You can start talking to the programmer can start talking to the DBA.
Right.
Maybe in a more.
Or maybe have a programmer who knows both the database and code, sort of be an intermediary.
And also, part of it is that the fact that we're that you can use C# or VB back there, or any other CLR language, it sort of means that it's a little bit easier to transfer skills from one tier to another, and that's got to increase the confidence level. Although in the end, you are still programming to a database, so there are some rules that are kind of different than the first tier or the second tier.
Hey, Kirk, do you have one of these a database? Do you have a similar situation where you work?
Similar. Actually, I'd like to, if you could expand, Steve, on the code behind in a column. What sparked my attention was, I'm sorry, let me get a little closer. We're currently using DTS pretty heavily for ETL solutions, bringing in data from other, various departments and sources, and we're bringing it in. They could be Foxborough, whatever. Now we taught a lot of the DBAs, both of them, that are using the SQL. We have an army of Oracle guys, and we got like 2 SQL guys. And they're basically just data monitoring.
We'll have an account rep calling upon you.
Yeah, right. So I actually taught them VB script, so in the DTS packages during a transformation, when they have to pull something in, they have to parse some fields into some other fields. They're actually just using some VB script, VBA in the transformation windows. And when I took a peek at the 2005 Yukon, I was frightened on how I was going to retrain, these people who have had no formal development coding. Is this going to be a big challenge for them? Are they not going to be able to do the year's worth of stuff that
Is
they've
it
done
simply
already?
that they're going to have to learn how to write code, and that's all there is to it?
Exactly. I mean, this is a big deal.
Well, this is Carter. From the perspective of what would drive them to want to write code, I mean, they still have all the same basic schema and table and data administration stuff that they had before. I think if we tie it to like a real example, I was mentioning the Keyhole and Excella collaboration. Picture you want to report on, after an earthquake, how many people are affected in a particular neighborhood. Yeah. And all you have is the street addresses and the number of occupants per house at street address. Mm-hmm. And somebody wants to visualize that on a map. How would you do that today with a relational database?
Right.
ArcIMS map objects?
What's that? Yeah. Well, so, I mean, I think there'll be scenarios like that drive people to consider, okay, for this application, let's write some code that does the calculation of the region covered by those street addresses, and then can graphically represent how many people are affected in that region in a way that you couldn't do by bringing tons of tabular data down.
You know what it is? You know what it is? I think we all agree that technologically it has to happen, but it's the whole human aspect of it that people and I'm thinking that
it's a learning process.
I'm actually thinking now that instead of having the DBA sort of shift gears and now become part coder, part DBA, it's probably a better idea, just like we do in architecture, right? When we have a situation where two things aren't talking directly to each other, you have a man in the middle. You have a something there to or a programmer in this case who understands the database that the DBA can trust, and they're responsible for writing all the code in the database, and they also talk to the programmers and sort of act as a proxy or a filter for that process. And I think architecturally in a team that makes the most sense. Do you guys think that's a good idea?
Well, as long as you don't step on anybody's toes.
Right.
Yeah, I think
inventing a new job.
I don't think we're saying that we're going to revolutionize the roles here. I think I'm saying that the Whidbey technology, and applied to SQL, makes it easier to write safer code faster and so forth. I think the roles are still going to be there, and you might get some people looking over each other's shoulders with this new stuff, but the T-SQL stuff is still there, and we're adding a new way here.
Well, we got about 12 minutes left or so. Let's move on to Jeff. What do you think is a really interesting aspect of Whidbey? Maybe not so well.
I find really interesting at Whidbey is that just the variety for the different areas of markets that that are available in Whidbey. And what I mean that is that we have different products that target different people. One of the things is that you got Visual Studio Express, target at the hobbyist, really slimmed down, light, quick to download version of Visual Studio. Yeah. We have the Professional Series and all the way up to Team System and the Enterprise Architect. And really, that all across the life cycle, with Whidbey, we're going to have an option for you. And really related to that, I think that there's going to be some really interesting things in Express around starter kits. And those are going to be little kits that people can play with and get rolling with from the standpoint of, some of them that we shipped in the first beta was like an RSS screensaver starter kit. Yeah. Another starter kit that is going to does let you manage your DVD collection, and it was a VB.NET sample that used the Amazon Web Services to be able to do that. I think the starter kits, you don't hear a lot of people talking about them yet, but I think it's going to enable a lot of things of getting people starting to program again.
Well, that's good, actually.
And just the range of the product from low end to high end, Whidbey is going to be there.
That's good. We actually have some listeners that are constantly asking for, swag and lunchboxes are great, but can you guys send me Visual Studio? With an Express, that's going to be,
that's perfect.
It's a better option for those people who may not, be able to get the full MSDN from their company, or they may be doing something completely different. They're like, I really want to develop, I really want to code. I'm just doing
something,
data now.
getting people started. The idea is a little bit slimmed down, and something that I could maybe hand to my daughter when she turns 6.
To
write that first C# application,
right.
And but it's a little bit slimmed down. It doesn't have all the cockpit, but it's still very powerful. You still have the power of the whole .NET framework, and so that's what excites me is that you can look at a lot of different people. You can have 4 different people in 4 different roles in the room. Somebody who has just started a program, somebody who's a hardcore developer, to somebody who's an architect, and we have a product that's going to be suited to them hopefully. And that's what really excites me is the wide spectrum.
Cool.
I didn't know that.
And Scott.
Yeah, to kind of play off Jeff's theme a little bit, and as opposed to specific feature sets, I'm really excited about the way that we're kind of targeting or providing opportunities for the developers and our partners and our customers to adopt Whidbey. And we're doing things like community days after the first of the year, where we're holding these one-day seminars basically for the developer to give them kind of an overview of all the new and salient features for Whidbey. There are different programs that you're going to see on MSDN. It's called MSDN ISV. That's really going to have a Whidbey-based focus to it.
Awesome.
So there's just a lot of programs that you'll see in the coming months, especially around Beta 2 time frame, around February, where we're just expanding our reach and again, hopefully lowering some of the barriers of development for our partners, so they can accelerate the adoption of Whidbey.
Awesome. So what is the current public ship time frame? Because it changes all the time. And I haven't asked a Microsoft person this in a long time. So
public time. Can you repeat that? When will Whidbey be available?
Right. Yeah. Right now, what's your ETA?
I don't know what we've said publicly.
When it's ready. It's just summer of 2005.
Yeah. I think that's what we said.
All right, summer.
I don't think we've actually said, the afternoon of the 27th of May.
No. I just meant a time frame. I heard, January, February, March, April. So summer in 2005 is a good target. You're saying, yeah, okay, awesome. And so
we've really pinpointed the dates there for you.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. That's what I wanted. Just a time.
You always want to see somebody from Microsoft Tap Dance. You ask them about when the product's going to be released.
I know. Yeah,
it gets pretty quiet, doesn't it?
I actually.
Can you repeat the question? There's a little static on the line.
I know.
No, actually, I didn't hear it.
Question? What question?
Yeah.
Very good. So, what's next on your agenda? Are you guys going to do any road shows? Are you going to participate in any events locally? Is there anything you want to plug?
Well, let's see.
Besides the MSDN events that go on in your local area, which we plug on our webpage, on our main page.
The MSDN events are an awesome way to get plugged in on what's happening and what's going on. Yeah, that's an awesome place. Especially now that they got Rory.
Right.
Doing that.
Right.
That's just crazy.
Isn't
I was
it?
supposed to go down and see Rory. He did one at the Bella Bottega Theater here in Redmond, and I didn't make it, and I was so bummed. But the MSDN events are such a great way to get connected with the here and now, and also tomorrow.
Yeah, that's
true.
true.
Some of our community efforts too that you'll start to see. I definitely would plug the Microsoft.com/partner website.
Okay.
If you go there, you'll start to see things. Again, like references to the MSDN articles, places where you can actually download webcasts. We'll also put a lot of our e-learning based training up on the partner site. So you should see those here in the coming months.
Okay. And from the chat room, does that mean Yukon is in that same time frame, summer? It's all shipping together, right?
More or less the same time.
More or less? Okay. Because you got to have Yukon before you can have Whidbey, right? Right?
Yeah, they have it. Yeah, they have it.
That's true. There was just an email out today, guys, that were saying, summer of 2005, you can say both Whidbey and Yukon.
Great.
Okay.
Great. And the team system, about the same time or shortly thereafter? What do you think about that?
Actually, Jeff, what is
right around that time?
I was assuming it's the same time frame. I know they're coming in a little hot with the latest features compared to the rest of Whidbey, but my understanding is it's coming in that they will catch up by
Sweet.
Time to ship.
Well, usually at this time in the show, guys, Richard Campbell, who's Richard the Toy Boy, does a segment where he finds a good toy and a scary toy or a not-so-good toy out there, and we usually raffle one off or sort of have a contest, like a scavenger hunt contest. But Rory's away and Richard is away, so it's sort of we're sort of getting back to our roots here. But what I would like to do is you guys have, obviously, a marketing closet. You have the authority to give away some swag, some good stuff, like maybe a VisualStudio.net 2003 Enterprise. Is that something that we could get you guys to give away?
Sure. And I got a few Channel 9 foam guys.
Oh, really?
But doesn't everyone have one of those already?
I can't give... No, sorry. Please take our Channel 9 foam guys.
What is a Channel 9 foam guy?
You don't know what a Channel 9 foam guy is?
Well, I know what it is on the as a picture, but is it an actual physical object?
It's an actual physical made out of foam and squishy.
Ah, okay.
It's very squishy.
All right. Well, let's find a let's do a scavenger hunt. Maybe like a Google scavenger hunt. Jeff, let's pick you, Jeff Sandquist. Let's pick something on your weblog that people will have to go first find your weblog, and we won't give the URL, and then something that you posted recently, a fact that you want people to go find and relate. And
a fact?
Yeah, something that you posted.
Okay, what is my? No, ask them. What did I have for breakfast on Monday morning?
What did Jeff Sandquist have for breakfast on Monday morning?
Last Monday.
Last Monday, and that is readily available on your blog. Okay.
It'll take them a little bit. They should be able to figure it out.
Oh yes, got them. Well, let it rain, let it pour, let it rain a whole lot more, 'cause I got them deep river blues. Just let the rain drop right on, let the waves just sweep along. Yes, I got them deep river blues.
Okay, and we have a winner. And the winner did not leave their name, but their email address alias starts N4CER. So whoever that is, congratulations! Woo-hoo! Yeah. And the
thank
answer
you for driving traffic to my weblog.
Oh, sure.
I now have 8 visitors. 8 people that visit.
Is that a record or?
It's a big day. It's going to be a big night at Sandquist House tonight. We will be celebrating.
And the answer, by the way, is protein powder plus 1 tablespoon peanut butter plus 1 teaspoon of fiber powder plus 1/2 a cup of berries.
Wow, that'll keep you regular, huh?
Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah, Carl, my girlfriend pointed out that email address is the Enforcer.
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 Oh,
and I
boy.
think that's a plop right there.
That is a plop. So Enforcer, go ahead and send us your snail mail address, and we'll get that to Microsoft, and you can enjoy very soon your new copy of Visual Studio 2003. Thanks, you guys. And I just want to say, thanks for coming on .NET Rocks, guys.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks very much.
Thanks for having us.
And on you're welcome. And on behalf of myself and Kirk Webb in the studio, Dan Kurla, Jeff Maciolik, and Shifty back in the sound room, and Eileen Crane, Jennifer Ritzinger out there in the chat room listening in and making sure that we don't screw up. Thank you very much for listening to .NET Rocks, and we'll see you next week. Rock
Go
on.
check out Whidbey.
Go check out Whidbey.
Have a good weekend, guys.
We'll see you.